Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Star and Flurry, or welcome. It was your first visit. I am making probably a controversial response to a video that was posted a little bit ago regarding. I'll link it down below. It's regarding. Why is this headband so weird? Regarding. I think the title of it was something along the lines of am I do I have a spending problem or am I just broke? And kind of really a long meandering conversation regarding the price of decks, the way in which they're reviewed on YouTube, the volume of walkthroughs and flip throughs and reviews and blah blah blah. And I encourage you to watch the video, and I will link it down below because it's an interesting subject in my opinion, and one that has gotten some, what do they call that, kind of flashback on the comments. I'm having a little glass of wine. Sorry. Not sorry. I'm not sorry. I'm having some wine. It's happy hour. Watching a hockey game. Go Kraken. And it's Saturday, so hello, weekend. Anyways, but I made this tape. I recorded a video a couple of days ago, and I felt like I didn't express myself well, choosing poor words and things like that, which people do when they're commenting. So bear with if I use a word that seems inappropriate, and I will do my very best to try to correct myself if I do. But anyways, it's kind of an interesting subject because for a lot of reasons, and one in that because it involves art and the price of that art, and how privy should we be to that kind of stuff. And she lays out her kind of monthly income to kind of show where she's at and where her problems lie. And I guess, this is not a bash video because I think it was really, really brave of her to post it and bring it to the community. And I think some people are responding kind of poorly, and other people are saying thanks for bringing this up. It's worth discussing, or if people are capable of that anymore. Sometimes it seems like they aren't. I try to be, but I get it. When it comes to thick politics, I'm not always the calmest person in the room. But so I guess I wanted to start out with an old Jack White quote. And basically he says, and I don't know when he said it, but it's attributed to him, which is, art is only as valuable as what people are willing to pay for it. Or something along those lines. I may be paraphrasing slightly. And that's, there it is. It's that's pretty much it. I did try to watch more of her videos because I wanted to noodle out a little bit more about her, like that's a psychology in me, because I felt weird about saying some stuff in the previous video that I don't sorry that I felt was inappropriate, but the truth is that it's not inappropriate. If she laid out her monthly income and then in the same breath kind of accused deck reviewers and this and that of lying when they don't put out the cost of the deck in the actual video. They always included a link to it down below. I mean, we are responsible for doing some of our own research, I think, but accuse them of lying kind of in the same breath. And I'm like, well, okay, but you didn't really explain your circumstances either. I mean, we now know that, I don't know if something's happened between 2020 and now, but you own your own home, so you're not dead broke. You may be just a part-time librarian, and I don't know if that's due to health reasons or what, but if you're capable of full-time work, then, that would be something. I had a friend who used to say, I don't have a spending problem. I have a revenue problem. And I think you have a revenue problem. I don't know. Addiction is a strong word, and you used it frequently about having a shopping addiction. That's a strong term, and I don't know if you do or not. You say you do, so I'm going to believe that you do. But I will tell you that I used to say to people a lot, oh, it's my OCD talking. Well, no, it's not, because I don't have OCD. It's a way to describe my behavior about being super picky about things or orders or whatever. But I'm not. I don't have OCD. I'm not diagnosed with it. It's that's a yeah. I no, I don't have it, and it's unfair of me to use that term to describe myself because I don't have it, and those who do uh, can suffer deeply, and so it's not really my job to use that as a descriptor of myself. And so I don't know where she's coming from in terms of being a shopping addicted. She left that part kind of out. So, while we see what your income is, we don't know the lay of the land within which that occurs. Are you living in New York City, or are you in, the Midwest on the prairies where cost of living and all that is less. I don't know. So your income doesn't really mean that much in the whole consequences of what you're talking about because we don't know the context within which it lays. So there's that, and we don't know where you lay in that context, what your abilities are. When you are going to criticize artists for charging too much for their work because you can't afford it, I think we need then to understand why you can't afford it. And some of that is private, and agreed. And so what an artist charges for their work also is private. That's up to them. One of your things in your get to know me thing, you talked about gatekeeping. But in many ways, that's kind of what you did in this video, was a little bit of gatekeeping, saying, I think you're doing this wrong. And I don't think they are. I think they're doing exactly how they value their work and their time and all of this. Now, to the ritual tarot, first of all, this, here, I forgot to say this at the beginning, disclaimer. I am clearly privileged. I'm lucky in that sense. I worked hard all my life. My family worked hard all their lives, and we've all benefited for that reason. But I think I just think there's a point where you need to kind of recognize your own circumstances and how you can change them. 25 years ago, I was, 20, how long ago would it have been? I was going off on a different topic there, and I apologize for losing my train of thought. Now I lost it again. Oh, so yeah, I lived with roommates until I was 38 years old. That's what I could afford. And then I decided to change my circumstances and advance in my career, and so I made significant changes to do that. And it worked, and I was able to get an apartment on my own, and I was really happy. But in the throes of all of that, I ended up $12,000 in debt, which in 1988 is a pretty big deal. I'm sure there's some student loan people out there like, $11,000, I'd kill for that. Well, yeah, I know. But back then, that was a chunk of change, and I was not earning enough. And of course, the credit card companies were like, oh no, just pay $25 a month, you're good. And I'm like, I get $25 a month from like my 5 lifetimes. I'll never pay this off at that rate, which is their plan, because they're making, I pay $25, they take 23 of it, and $2 goes to the balance. So that's why it was a mess. It was a mess. And I felt so stupid about having created that situation in my life. So, I had to kind of buckle down, and as I said in my previous video, which I did post, is kind of, through a series of unfortunate events and deaths where I got a pittance of an inheritance here and there, I was able to slowly begin to chip away at that. And I was very thankful for that. And eventually I did chip away at it enough I got to figure out what this is. I don't know what that is. Anyways, so I was able to chip away at it and get rid of it, and moved on. And I'm not trying to give her advice on how to do her finances. I'm really not. But I just want to say that if your thing is more of a revenue problem than it is a shopping addiction, and if you're seriously only earning $1,100 or $1,300 a month, whatever that was, there's not a lot of wiggle room in there. I get that. Um, you have a revenue problem, and unless there's a physical reason you can't go out there and work for money somewhere doing something more than just the part-time librarianship. Which thank you for that, because that's a hard job, and I'm sure it pays for shit. So thank you for doing it. But yeah, you need to change those circumstances for sure. And I was going to say, I mean, slowly but surely I chipped away at it. And then everything's going along fine for about 7 years. And then one day, back in my day, we used to have to write a check for every bill. Lick an envelope, put a stamp on it, put it in the mail. Every day. Sit down and write these multitude. God, I hated that day when I had to sit down and do that. It was annoying as brick. But as banks started to be able to allow you to pay through the banking on their websites, it was very cool. But so I went through a period though where some were on there and others I am writing checks for, and so I missed one once and ended up getting I don't know whether it was a mail or a phone call, but somewhere along the way, you missed this and you owe this and late fees and blah blah blah. Just it was costing me 5 times as much just to have missed that payment. And so I made a phone call and got on the line, and the guy's kind of like, "Oh, sorry, this is what the deal is." And I'm like, "Well, here's my story. Please listen." And I told him my story, that I had spent 7 years digging myself out of frickin' debt, that I had been a good payee to this whoever was holding the card forever, and I always paid my bill in full, and I can't believe that I can't get a little grace on this. And he listened to my story, and he said, "Okay, we'll back off all the fees. We won't report this to anybody," because they don't do that for a while after. I don't remember how long it is. "If you can pay it in full today," and I could, so I did. And that was the end of that, and so it never went on my record, and I was so thankful for him to take the time to listen to my story. I don't know if they're that graceful now, but it was part of my journey to make that call and see if I could fix this without wrecking everything I had tried to build up in the last 7 years. And so far, and I haven't made that mistake again, because we don't want to make that mistake again. So, okay, so that was that. So I wanted to make a couple other comments. One of the things she made comments about is that the flip throughs, there were too many. They don't have value. They're not forthcoming about whether they've received the deck for free or the price of the deck, and blah 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 blah. So here's the deal. I think flip throughs are incredibly valuable. There are many decks that I've seen that I'm like, "Ooh, I want that," and then I see the flip through and I'm like, "Ooh, I don't want that." So I'm so thankful that somebody took the time to put that on YouTube so that I could walk through it and realize that I didn't want that deck. In other situations, I don't know of anybody reviewing a deck that doesn't say they're reviewing the deck. So that in itself should tell you it may be a biased opinion. I think most of these people try really hard to be honest. I think they tell people, "I can't review this deck," or I think, "Don't send it to me. I don't think I'll like it. It's not a deck I would like to review." But other decks, it may be one that has piqued their interest and they like to review it, and then they do their best to do an honest review. Be it knocking the cardstock, the artwork, the guidebook, whatever. There's many of them out there, and I just think it's unfair to say that these people have an innate bias that they love the deck because they got it for free, which is not always, I would say, actually rarely the case. And with that being said, I've never seen anybody on YouTube say, "Oh, I don't care whether you can't afford it, you need to buy this." Never seen that, ever. Forego your gas money, but buy this deck. Don't buy groceries, but buy this deck. Nobody says that. They are offering you an insight into a deck that on Amazon you only get to see 4 cards, or if you're that lucky. Here, let me show you the entire deck, and let me give you let me tell you what I think of it. And then there's always a link below to take you to where they got that deck and how much it costs. So at that point, I mean, I think really it's your job to do a tiny bit of homework to see what the deck costs before you absolutely fall in love with it. I mean, I see all sorts of ads on televisions for beautiful cars. But when I go and say, "Ooh, I want that," and I go in and see it's $70,000, all of a sudden I don't want it anymore because no. I mean, you have to kind of. I know a car's a big example, but it's the same thing with a $95 freaking dollar deck. Oh, that was where I lost my train of thought. I was going to say the Ritual Tarot. I have trouble with collage decks. My brain just absorbs the image almost too quickly. I'm not saying I decipher it or understand it well. I'm just saying it comes into my brain really fast and just turns into scrambled eggs. I can't read collage decks for the life of me. There's a few that I can, and I've spoken about them a lot on my videos. Rosebud Tarot is one that I absolutely dearly love. A lot of air, a lot of space, a lot of room to breathe in that deck. The images are very precise, and I just think it's wonderfully put together. I looked at the Ritual Tarot, and I was like, I don't even know I don't know what's happening in that deck. I'm not that good at tarot, so it doesn't surprise me that I don't know what's happening in that deck. But on the other hand, it's kind of like, I think to really absorb that deck, you have to know a lot about a lot. And to understand all the symbolism that's packed into each card. And by the way, none of them are marked. So you don't know. It's kind of up to you. And I understand that the author has, kind of said, I'm doing that so that your intuitive juices can really flow. But, there's a point at which, is there a structure to the deck or is there not? I don't know. And then I honestly, hear criticisms of the deck while it's being well received and really well loved by a lot of people. A lot of people are saying it wears out really fast. I always get wary when the author says, "Don't shuffle this deck." I don't know if she does or not. I thought I saw that on there, but maybe not. But I always get weary of that because, of course, you're going to shuffle deck. Come on? It's a tarot deck. We shuffle. Most people shuffle. So don't make a deck that you advise me not to shuffle. That just seems odd. But in $95, no. I buy decks. I do, but I've never spent $95 on a deck. And I mean, it's easy for me to say this because I'm not lusting after the Ritual Tarot. It's just not a tarot deck that excites me in any way, shape, or form, for a lot of different reasons. But if it excited you, yay, then you put your $10 a month away if you can, and then 9 months from now you get to buy it. Or wait until people start to kind of get, decks come and go. Their interest level high and low. I think if 8 or 9 months, you're going to see the Ritual Tarot showing up on eBay a lot, and you'll be able to pick it up for a song. So maybe that's what you wait for. Or if you're lucky, you did put the call out for somebody to send it to you, and maybe they will. And that's really cool, and God bless them. But to say that it's too expensive, that artist, and regardless of what you're, I appreciate that you're asking for discounts. People, it's about the ask. It's okay to ask. And it's okay for them to say no. What's the worst that can happen? No. If that's the worst that can happen, then you're getting off pretty scot-free, in my opinion. And if you're getting a discount, then yahoo, you've won because all you did was ask. Good job, and keep it up. But to kind of put it out there, and I know you've put a disclaimer now on saying that, I don't know, that you're not quite sure or not quite, you're sure, you misworded whatever you said, and you put a little disclaimer on the video talking about that, which is fine, and appreciate it. But nonetheless, that artist gets to charge whatever they want. That's what they get to do because they're the artist, the creator, I think they're doing all their own publishing. And is it our job to detail out? Is it their job to detail out their expenses to us? No, it is not. It isn't. I appreciate the decks that say we're doing this eco-consciously and this and that. And that's everybody appreciates that. But there's a lot of decks being produced today that are not doing that, and they don't say anything about it. And if nobody's people are choosing to either buy their deck or not based on that, then they have that choice. So yeah, so I don't. That's an argument I don't agree with. I think the artist has every right to charge what they want, and they have every right to charge what they want, when they want it, and why they want it, in the, in their own terms, and they don't need to share that information. Um, I see, if when people do, maybe just for factual information, is the reason I'm charging $70 for this deck is this, and that's fine. But not everybody's going to do that. Not everybody has to do that. Personally, I mean, really, in a lot of these tarot decks, if these artists were charging by the hour, these decks would be like $300. So I think we're making out pretty good, frankly. Um, what else was I going to say? I was going to say, um, and for instance, or just a short story is that this version of the Soblia tarot came up in on eBay. Somebody was doing a declutter and decided to put it on eBay, and stated very honestly that they didn't know what this deck was worth. They knew it was worth more than a price tag they could put on it, so they thought they'd put it on eBay and auction and see what happens. And I decided I wanted the deck because I wanted the deck, because I wanted it for my collection. I'd never lusted after the deck. I didn't even know what it looked like. Barely knew what it looked like. And I can honestly say it probably wasn't even my style. But nonetheless, I bid on it and then lost very quickly, got outbid very quickly. And I was like, okay, we're playing this game? Okay. I know how to eBay. I know the tricks of the trade. I'm a very good bidder. And so I slapped in or put in some devices that were going to basically assure me that I would win that deck, I thought. Um, in the end, or not in the end, but the days coming up to the ending of the auction, I started to question what I was doing. I was in it for the win, not for the deck. And was it enough of a question to go in and change my bid, which I could, or withdraw it, which I easily could have done? No. I didn't do that. But fortunately, I was outbid. And I breathed a sigh of relief. And I'm like, why didn't I have enough foresight in my brain to pull that bid? Because at that point, I wasn't bidding for the deck. I was bidding to win. And I thought I was kind of past that. I had gotten into that mentality quite a while back, and I thought I had gotten out of it. Apparently, I haven't. But fortunately, somebody outbid me, and I was thank God, because I didn't really want the deck. I don't, whatever. I don't understand the nuances of that particular deck. Maybe down the road I will when I learn more about what I'm doing. But at this point, I have no idea. So I guess those are my thoughts. I think artists are allowed to charge what they charge. That's their job. That's what they get to do. That's because they're the artist. They made it. They get to charge you what they charge. And some artists may charge you $100 for a deck, and other artists will say $19.95. It's good. That's just how it. That's their right. And the fact that we want to know the breakdown, I think, is nosy. I don't think they have any obligation whatsoever. And it's not like I go in to buy a shirt and say to somebody, "Can you tell me where this thread was made? What was this made in a sweatshop?" I don't ask those questions. I just bought a white shirt at Old Navy. I'm really excited about it. I had the same shirt about 3 years ago that I bought at Nordstrom's that cost probably $110. It's basically a boyfriend, what they call a boyfriend style white Oxford shirt. And it probably cost $110 at Nordstrom's. And I never wore it because I was scared. It was white. I was scared I was going to ruin it. And it was also it was staticky. I hate staticky clothing. So I'm at the Old Navy today. Saw the same exact shirt, 100% cotton, for $50. And I was like, sweet. So I picked it up. I don't have to go out and buy the $200 shirt. I can find stuff at a better price that works for me. And when I do buy the expensive stuff, I don't, want a detailed description of where that was made, what they paid their workers, how much the fabric cost, how much the this cost, how much that. I don't ask that. they put a price tag on it, and I decide whether it's worth it to me or not. And that's how it works. Um, I just don't. I don't. I don't see why you need. I don't see how we have standing to demand that from the artists, because art is worth what someone is willing to pay for it, and that is just what it is. And right now, the Ritual Tarot is doing exactly that. I mean, they could charge $110, and people would still clamor for it um, because whatever the excitement about that deck is, which I myself don't understand, is very high and very peak, and they're in it. They're in to make a profit, and they know it's not going to last forever. So make what they can make. Good for them. That's the gamble you take. I mean, they could have put this deck out, and nobody would have bought it. I mean, they didn't do that, but they could have. It could have happened. And now they're out all this time, money, all that stuff for nothing. So they're taking a gamble too, and I'm so happy that they are taking a gamble. So that's kind of where I sit with this stuff. I want to come back and say that I really appreciate that she made this YouTube video. I think it's an amazing topic. I think it's an interesting topic, and I think it's and I'm surprised that nobody, or I at least haven't seen any video responses. I guess because it's just let it lay. I get that too, and in the end, maybe I should have let it lay. But I think these are things that need to be discussed. If it sounds, she's getting a lot of love in the comments as well. People saying, "I'm so glad you brought this up. I'm glad you, are sensitive to people who are not in great financial situations." So those others, I appreciate that recognition, and I think that's good. But I also think that there's, she used some strong words in there, like particularly calling the deck reviewers liars. I really, the minute she said that, I really had a problem with that. And they're not lying to you. They're doing the best that they can, objectively, as objective as they can be, and they always, always include the link to the price. So just because they're not announcing it in the video, I don't think. I mean, I put cards up all the time. I try to acknowledge the artist, but I don't acknowledge what the price is. If I do a lot of decks, I try to put the links all below so you can adventure on your own. So I had a lot of trouble with that word, because I don't think they're lying to you. You're capable of looking up a price, and you're capable of not pushing the buy button. So there's that. So that's my response. I hope I not pissed off too many people. So, Star Flurry, I'm going to get back to the hockey game. Star Flurry out. Have a good night, everybody. Bye.